This podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Okay, this is Drinking with Authors, the Literary Briefs edition. I am your host, your sober host, Erica Lance. I say that because my co-host, J.M. Paquette, is making fun of me, and you'll find out in moments why I'm sober, because we have an amazing guest today who is Jody Lynn Nye. Woo! I have to say Skunk Brothers Spirits is our sponsor, DWA 10. But today I'm not drinking because Jody Lynn, when last she was on the podcast, this is her second appearance, had hot chocolate. And I made a ridiculously large hot chocolate that is just hot chocolate. So my co-host can't make fun of me for forgetting where I was asking questions. So there. What are you drinking, JM?
I'm drinking tea, but it is caramel corn tea. So it tastes like a bag of caramel popcorn, but in black tea. It is wonderful.
That's just ridiculous. And Jody, of course, what are you drinking?
I am drinking hot chocolate as my tipple of choice. So
I like the hot chocolate and chill, hot cocoa and chill cup. Okay. So because you've been on the podcast before, I change up the questions a little bit. What is the best book you've read in the last 2 years?
oh boy, that's a tough choice. Are we talking about fiction or nonfiction?
Well, let's answer both. What is the best fiction book you've read, and then nonfiction?
Ooh, okay. Well, nonfiction, I'm going to go with Ruth Goodman and How to Be a Tutor, or How to Behave Badly. Tremendously wonderful writer about what it was like to live in medieval and Renaissance and Reformation times, because she has actually, as a recreator, lived these things, and they're so much fun to read. As for fiction, that is a tough choice. I'd have to go with the last Terry Pratchett book that I read, and I am saving the last few because, of course, there will be no more, and that makes me sad.
That makes sense. Do you have a lot of time to read?
But A Hatful of Salt book,
Are we having technical difficulties?
We might be having an internet blip. It happens. Let's see. Let's give her a second.
You folks?
Oh, there you are. Okay, you're back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Internet blips. It's technology.
Where did I stop talking?
Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett, probably A Hatful of Sky, one of his Tiffany Aching books.
Mm-hmm.
But I love his book so much, and I'm so sad that there will be no more. He was our Shakespeare. He understood human nature so brilliantly, but he liked us anyhow.
Yes.
So do you get to read a lot?
Well, right now I'm reading a ton. I've been reading stories.
Well, I mean for the contest, but I mean in general, because I know balancing things like life and reading and writing, and you have all these events you participate in and all this, stuff like that. Do you find a lot of time to read or no?
Not as much as I'd like. I do carry books with me wherever I go. I have a Kindle now, which is a terrific little vehicle. It doesn't weigh any more if it has one book or 1,000 on it. So I think that's just awesome.
Yes. I have to say it's a brilliant invention. I know a lot of people like the tactile of books. Jen is one of those people. It's not that I don't like them. I don't like them falling on my face when I fall asleep with them. That's
like that too.
Yeah, it's the impact. I've had some impact on my face from falling asleep with books, especially larger paper hardcover ones. But I think that's great when you do carry it around, because you actually wait a lot of places. You don't think about it, but there's so many places that you wait. The other thing I like is audiobooks, because like when I'm grocery shopping or doing the dishes or like chores, I listen to audiobooks or podcasts the entire time because you have nothing else to do.
I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but I don't actually care much for audiobooks. I read faster than the narrator can speak. So
You and Jen both.
You
Okay.
can you speed it up.
I don't want to listen to chipmunks reading to me. Thank you.
You could do 1.5 and then it's like right about. I'm like, oh, okay. All right.
And then he
This
ran
is
down the
good.
stairs and it's found a monster.
It doesn't make it too bad. It depends on the reader, I guess.
Jen is really nice, just to clarify things. So she will be like the epitome of nice in situations. She's one of those people that will read stuff and go, well, this isn't that bad. And I'm like, why did you finish it? She's like, well, and I'm like,
There are some I've learned to stop reading now. I'm better. I used to always finish books, but now
I did too. I used to always read all the way through things, and I thought I could be reading a better book.
that's what I think.
yes.
I got Kindle Unlimited, and that's what changed it. Where I was like,
Mhm.
I have access to so many more books right now that I'm not. It's not like I have to go back to the library to get a different book that I'm committed. Or, I don't have to read this one.
Do you go to the library still, Jody?
Yes, yeah. We have a lovely library nearby. They were closed for quite a long time during COVID.
Yeah.
So thank goodness for the Kindle store.
Mhm.
Yes, I think it's awesome. I can't tout it enough on this, that you can get so many amazing books, and even to the point of you start reading and you're not into that, then take it back and go get another book. Like libraries are where, at least for me, I learned different genres that I loved, because you can sit there and start and open a book and they want you to touch and open the books. Barnes and Noble is not as fond of you fondling the books for many, many minutes. They don't love that as much. Not that they're mean. Most Barnes and Noble employees are very nice and quiet people, but you'll get the sort of stank eye after a little while, and they'll start following you if you fondle too much of the book. But I love that, because you can read a couple pages and go, I like this, I don't like this, and then I just think it's a brilliant system.
A
That's
library is a civic resource and they should be supported.
Always.
We donated a load of books when we moved to a rather impoverished county library I will not name, but they had a leak in their roof and they did not fix it until we shamed them into it by sending them 300 books. Something. Their budget was so small, it ran mostly to the librarian's salary, the bills to keep the lights on and the air conditioning running, and not a lot else. So we need to support them or they will disappear.
Mhm.
I agree. And I think supporting them, and also bring your kids, bring your grandkids, show them, teach them. There's so many story hours. There's so much life in a library that I think people take for granted, because even if you have Kindle and Kindle Unlimited, and you have an e-reader, however your e-reader is, right? It's not the same. The looking at the books is not the same.
If you,
Yeah.
for example, love a series, if you go to a library, you will discover if that writer has written other series, because they will be around the one that you're reading through. And perhaps you will discover that you'll like another series just as much, or maybe even more.
Yes. Okay. Definitely support local libraries. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not 5 questions in, Jen. Were you ready with the question?
I have a question.
Okay, sassy pants. I'm not 5 questions, but go ahead.
I was going to ask about your hot chocolate preference. Do you like milk chocolate, dark chocolate? Like, what do you do? Flavored hot chocolate? Where are you in your hot chocolate preferences?
For breakfast, I have dark hot chocolate. I mix my own cocoa powder because most of them are too sweet, and I do not drink anything that has corn syrup in it. So I buy natural natural cocoa powder. I mix it with cane sugar to a proportion of 2 cups to 1 1/3 cups coconut sugar. I used to add vanilla powder to it, and I discovered I didn't need that, but I get a very good chocolate hit off that. If I am out and about, Starbucks actually makes a good hot chocolate. It's not too sweet, but Caribou's dark chocolate is wonderful, dark hot chocolate. And like I said, I'm a little fussy about the hot cocoa I drink. So I have it every morning. I mix up about 18 days worth of powder at a time and keep it in a little canister. So
I think that's awesome. I actually had this argument the other day. It wasn't an argument, but I was
Keep it-
at the grocery store. It could have escalated to an argument full on, but I was at the grocery store and I started going through and I realized I hadn't looked at the labels of some of the like ice creams and stuff that I like in a long time. Like I
Mhm.
realized I just hadn't looked at the labels. And I have to do this because of a coconut allergy. And so I have to be very careful because they like putting coconut in everything now, right? Like this is
Mhm.
super exciting to everybody. They're like, we'll put coconut oil. So I've just taken to now, if I haven't gotten something in the last month, I'm going to read the label, like just to make sure. The amount, I was so disappointed because Talenti makes gelato. They put corn syrup in it now. Yeah.
That's disappointing.
It was so disappointing for me. And there's another ice cream brand because Haagen-Dazs started doing that years ago. And I don't know if Ben and Jerry's has, but there's another one like that that's now putting corn syrup. And I'm like, you know, there's so many other options for sweeteners that you can put in, you know, ice cream, and going that anytime I see a company do that, I go, now you're just trying to make profits instead of continuing the quality product that you had. Because they used to have like sugar, eggs, cream, and like it had like 5 ingredients in these
Right.
Talentis, and now it has corn syrup. And I was like, and my boyfriend was like, I don't understand the big deal. And I'm like, I know you don't.
Have you got
Buy
access
the
to
grocery?
Edie's ice
Edie.
cream?
Yeah.
Because usually that has natural ingredients, including sugar, unless you are making caramel, in which case you need corn syrup because that's how you make caramel.
No, that makes sense. This was not caramel. This was vanilla. And I was like, you do not
that
need
is a
corn
disappointment.
syrup in vanilla ice cream. So it was very disappointing. So I started picking up all these containers,
Mhm.
and eventually I walked away. And then the next day we had to go pick up a prescription, and he's like, I'm gonna go find you ice cream while you do everything else. Just don't come near the freezer section. And he was able to find Publix here has Green Wise, and it has real sugar in it. It has real cane sugar. And so I was like, there you go. But he was like, don't kill the ice cream people. Like, he's like, there was somebody putting away ice cream. I was afraid you were going to mutilate him. I'm like, what is this? Just throw it all in place. So during the COVID, have you watched any of the books that have been turned into mainly TV series or movies? Have you liked any of them?
Books that have been turned into series, like which ones?
Like we could say Bridgerton, for instance. That was
Or
one.
like Wheel of Time or Shadow and Bone.
Yeah.
Neither of those is for me really, and I haven't watched Bridgerton yet, although I have friends who are crazy about it. So more power to them.
You know what? I didn't for a while because I was I get killed for this. I'm not a Jane Austen fan. I'm not a fan of those kind of things that ugh. So I was like, I can't do the whole English like, ooh, let me look at like it drives me crazy. I hate those movies. So I didn't watch this for the longest time because I was like, I just can't. I am actually terribly impressed with how they did it. Like it moves along, it's got a good story, and it's not a lot of waiting. Like you're not sitting there going, wow, they've had tea for 10 minutes. I'm going to kill every single one of them. It's not like that. So I
Not
will
that kind of
say,
story.
from somebody who doesn't like that normally, I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good.
Cool.
And they updated it too, because the books are very dated now. So
Yeah. Well, they updated it to Old English hierarchy.
well, no, just like the portrayal of people and the stereotypes and some of the things that were in the older books.
Have you watched anything recently that you really liked?
Me?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I've
your
been keeping
podcast.
well, you can also chat with each other. I don't mind. I've watched some of the Marvel miniseries, and I think that they have been pretty good as a group. Very, very impressive. Some of them not quite as wonderful as the others, but on the whole, I'm really enjoying them. And it's nice in a way. It's fan fiction because the originals were things that I loved. So I'm very happy to see more of that, to have more That was always the reason for the existence of fan fiction, was we went through every single iteration from the originals, but we want more stories. We want more of those characters. We want more of that situation. And now we're getting it. So in a way, Disney has reinvented fan fiction for video, and I'm very cool with that. And they have also done some brilliant, brilliant casting. I think I loved what they did with Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes.
And let's see. I thought WandaVision was mind-blowing, really amazing stuff. We just started watching Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh,
Very interesting.
I'm a fan of the Obi-Wan Kenobi. I loved the Mandalorian, actually. I was not a huge fan of the Boba Fett one.
I saw a note on Reddit that said it should be subtitled, "Why didn't he listen to Fennec?"
Yes, yes.
Every episode should be subtitled, "Why didn't he listen to Fennec?"
Yeah. No, it was interesting. I know this is going to sound terrible, but as a huge Star Wars nerd, I was at opening night in Chinese Man Theater, Hollywood, California, 1976. I was 3, but I was still there. Dedicated
Star Wars?
Star Wars fan.
No, 1977, May 25th.
77. Yes. Still 3 years old.
I was
There.
there.
Yeah. Were you there?
I was not in California. I was at the first show that they had in Northbrook, Illinois.
I was going to say, I'm going back through photos. Wouldn't it be weird to see me and Jody Lynn?
Wouldn't that be weird?
That would be just, oh my God, I so framed that. Anyway, when Boba Fett is always one of my favorite characters in a way, because he was just sort of this intimidating thing. And then they did the Clone Wars, which I don't want to discuss that whole thing. But then when they did this, I was like, you've taken a lot of that sort of mystery coolness completely away from this character. And I was like, and he had like the Rainbow Bite Squad, which is on the scooters. I was like, this is like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in Star Wars. What is happening here? And I just couldn't do it. I'm sorry for anybody listening, but diehard Star Wars fan, and I couldn't do it.
Well, for me, I was a huge fan of Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I'm very happy to have a series about him now. He was my favorite character. He tied with Princess Leia, because I am 8 months younger than Carrie Fisher. So I was a brown-haired, brown-eyed teenager at the time that she was kicking ass on screen, for all the times that I saw movies with girls with lots of long golden hair and huge blue eyes. And instead we have this tough little bantam who blasts a hole in the wall and says, "Into the garbage chute, fly boy."
I have to say that, and having Ripley from Aliens, like those kind of role models made a difference for me too, because I was like, they're just kicking everybody's ass. That's what's happening there. They're not the damsel in distress. They are up there being the hero of the story. Because no offense, Luke and Han kind of bumbled that rescue completely.
It was their first rescue. It's fine.
Oh my goodness. Okay, go for it, Jen.
So if what kind of fan fiction would you want that you haven't discovered? Like what area would you want to read more about?
It would depend a great deal on the fan fiction source.
Okay.
Because again, I want a good story. I want somebody who really understands the characters. I don't know if you remember when the first New Voyages books came out. Some of the stories were really good, some of them weren't. They were more Star Trek. The same goes for the earliest Star Trek novels.
Okay.
Some of them were good, some of them were not, because they were literally asking for anything that anyone had finished, including Barbara Hambly was always happy to talk about how Ishmael became a Star Trek novel when it had been a fan fiction crossover between Star Trek and Here Come the Brides. But it got published anyway. I think it was volume number 6 of the novels, because they wanted almost anything. And she was even then a good writer, but she got the opportunity. So it depends on who's writing it. Some people have been really, really good, and I'm a little choosy about that. I
Do
think
you
the
have
best
an
I think the
author?
best Star Trek fan fiction out there right now is the Orville.
I love the
Oh.
Orville. It comes out in like a day or so, right?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is it
Tomorrow.
okay? I was like, I know it's this week.
I think you can tell when somebody, it's interesting because I think this was true of like the Thor Ragnarok movie, and that gentleman is actually making the next Star Wars movie, right?
Like a
And I-
Waititi. He is
Yeah.
a brilliant,
Our
brilliant
flag
man.
means death.
Exactly. And he was, What We Do in the Shadows. He was, I'll just say that when you can tell when somebody truly loves the thing that they're doing and they're a huge fan of it. Like you can tell the difference when somebody makes a movie about a book or something, a comic book that they're passionate about. Because even if it's not 100% true to the book, because we all know you can't put an entire book in a movie. No matter how hard you try, you can't do that.
No.
Right. But you can tell when somebody genuinely loves it. And I was talking, who was I talking to? I was talking to another author, and they were talking about the fact that a lot of times books get opted to be movies because some sub person at the studio read it, said, hey, this might be a good thing, gives it to somebody and gives them the like back blurb of the book. And somebody goes and writes an entire screenplay off of the back blurb of the book, basically, and doesn't actually read or understand the story. But you have like Thor Ragnarok, which was one of the funniest and best Marvel movies, I think, right? One of, and you could tell he loved it. You could tell he was having so much fun with it, and the character creation and the character arc. So they weren't just like, oh, I'm a superhero. It was like, here's how they're all flawed, right? And
I used to read Thor comics, and there was a lot of humor in it that was largely absent from the first appearances of Thor. There was a lot of humor in it. And
Have you watched Our Flag Means Death at all?
have I?
Our Flag Means Death, speaking of Taika Waititi. It's a newer show. It's pirates, but it's very much What We Do in the Shadows. So it's the same director. It's wonderful.
He's got amazing actors in that. He's got a couple of my favorite actors in that. Yeah,
he's in it too. He plays one of the
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. He's sort of Alfred Hitchcocking himself.
Well, he did that in What We Do in the Shadows as well. You know, he plays that, but I think you can definitely see that in TV shows or whatever, when somebody loves what they're writing and what they're directing and what they're doing with it, you can go, they actually genuinely love this story. I mean, Ryan Reynolds was with Deadpool too. Like that was part of it, is he loved that character and loved everything about it and didn't take himself very seriously.
Not at all.
Yeah, a David Letterman special that he's done, like my guest needs no introduction. And he was
my next
talking
guest
about
needs no introduction. Yes.
And I loved it. Ryan Reynolds was talking about the fact that he created this character that was not the like, whoa, superhero kind of like thing. He was pretty much a doormat. Like he gets run over all the time and does it. If you look at the way Deadpool does things, he does it very badly. He doesn't avoid getting shot or whatever. Anyway, I think that's fantastic. If you could pick an author to write, like you could wave a magic wand and go, you were going to write this story, what would you do?
Oh boy.
I say that from somebody who's known so many of the great epic authors of all time.
That is an enormously tough choice, because so many of the authors who have written worlds have continued on to write the books that I was hoping that they would write. But I have to say, it would be, if I could, and I asked her once about it, Madeleine L'Engle. She kept hinting that there would be a story about Meg Murray's little brother, Charles Wallace, the genius, the genetic sport, who was far too smart for the family he was born into, despite the fact that both his parents were scientists. And I asked her on the one time I was able to meet her, when are you going to write the Charles Wallace book? I have been waiting, I have been hoping. And she said, I can't do it now. And that makes me terribly sad. If I could have any book, it would be that.
Oh,
That makes sense.
well, that's disappointing and sad to hear.
Mhm.
Is there a sandbox you would want to play in?
Is
Like
there a
what
what?
Like a
Oh,
world?
Oh my goodness. I have been lucky enough to write in most of the sandboxes I wanted to, but I would love to have written with Terry Pratchett. I would love to have had that opportunity. He was so brilliant and so funny and so insightful. And I did know him. So I was privileged to hang out with him a bit and well, drinking non-alcoholic things while he had a beer or so. But tremendously innovative writer.
Mhm.
So he was the kind of person who could twist an idea and make it both funny and something that you say, why didn't I think of that? That's so obvious.
Mhm.
I would love to have been able to write with him, but
Mhm.
I would just have been happy to sit by while he did in fact write. That would have been fun.
Well, that's so cool. But you have been very fortunate to write with a lot of amazing authors,
Mhm.
and they've been fortunate to get to write with you.
I'm not sure they saw it that way, but that's okay.
I'm sure they did because they kept asking you to do it. So if they didn't like you, they would have been like, it's so nice. Do you want some hot cocoa? Let's not talk about books. Look, I have some ice cream choices for you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I have, like I said, I've been very lucky. I did not get to write with my dear friend Susan Sizemore. She wanted to write with every one of her friends who was also a writer. And she did try, but she was taken from us too soon. Wonderful writer. She did vampire romances, she did time travel romances, she very innovative and always a great writer. I am not a huge fan of the romance genre because sometimes it's just too contrived. Back when the little thin white back novels were so prevalent, they were cookie cutter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
did not care for them, but she wrote romances I could believe in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mhm. She was a tremendously wonderful writer.
Well, and there have been so many, and it's so awesome that you've gotten to know. Okay, I'm getting jealous again. That's what's happening. This is what happens. I talk to her and I'm like, now I'm jealous again. Like,
So what are you reading right now? For your book, not
Oh,
story-wise.
for my pleasure.
Yeah.
Again, mind goes totally blank. Mostly reading nonfiction right now because of the Eric Flint book, but I'm reading a book about the wool trade in England in the 17th century. And I'm reading a lot of cookbooks because I have a series, well, let's start with one novel, but a series in which I need that.
Mhm.
Cookbooks are tremendous because it gives you a lot of insight into the writer, what they're drawing from, what's important to them. And naturally, every cookbook has a happy ending because they always end with dessert.
Mhm. Makes sense.
And then the index, but I ignore that.
That part's not important.
Okay, well, we have to wrap up. So let's do some shameless self-promotion. What would you like to shamelessly self-promote?
I would like to shamelessly self-promote my book for assisting people in helping to polish their book called Once More with Feeling, edited by, published by Wordfire Press. And Cats Triumphant, which will shortly be coming out in both paper and ebook format from Prince of Cats publications. And it has an adorable cover with an orange tabby on it. I happen to have an orange tabby, so I thought that was just a charming picture. So you can find me on Facebook at Jody Lynn Nye, and very, very, very occasionally Twitter. I will be at a number of conventions, which are on my website, which is jodylynnye.com or jodynye.com. And I am the coordinating judge for the Writers of the Future contest. So please send in stories, go to the website, follow the instructions and send a story. You can send one per quarter. And the prizes for winning are awesome.
Very, very cool. And that's so awesome. And thank you for helping so many people like you do. It's just truly amazing. And it's fantastic having you. I absolutely love having you on this podcast. And I think I might sneak over to that con if I'm feeling up to it after my
Hope you
stuff.
can.
Yes, sneak over. But it's been great having you. So this has been Drinking with Authors Literary Briefs. I've been your host, Erica Lance. Our sponsor today has been Skunk Brothers Spirits, coupon code DWA10, brother-owned and veteran-owned distillery in Washington. Please support because their drinks are kind of amazing. My co-host today has been J.M. Paquette, and our amazing guest has been Jody Lynn Nye, which it's so fabulous to have her back. And we will see you all next time.